Hi guys, and welcome to China Perspective. My name is 𝗬𝗶𝗀𝗀, and you may know me as a German recruiter in Asia. I often hear my Western clients say how surprised they are by how fast and in what great numbers Chinese firms and industries have improved their quality and output. And to that I usually say, well, it's not really a surprise, is it? This has been put into writing with a clear plan already in 2015. Did you ever read the China 2025 plan? It is openly available, by the way, also in several languages by now. And now that we have arrived in the year 2025, China is currently still working on its 2035 plan, which we expect to be finalized in the very near future. So today, I want to be sharing some insights into both China 2025 and China 2035 strategies. I hope this can help you, as a Western company, to understand better what is going to happen in the next 10 years. These past 2 decades have been decades of growth, not only for the Chinese economy, but for many, many international firms who came here. Many of them made excellent business. Even myself, I've been benefiting from China's growth as I've been here for almost 17 years now. But in recent times, more and more international companies and clients of mine are struggling. A lot of that can be attributed, of course, to the aftermath of the pandemic and a slow economy. However, many of my nerdy and dirty manufacturing clients tell me they are mainly struggling with fierce competition from local companies. While not overnight, many company leaders feel a little bit surprised by how good the local competition is today, and this is one of the 2 most pressing business problems that companies are facing in the China market today. A big part of this is due to the China 2025 strategy. As with the previous strategy, while not all details of it are fulfilled, the large majority of the goals and targets have been hit or are soon to be hit. So knowing what the plan is for the next 10 years will hopefully give you a leg up, or at the very least prevent those big surprises. These are China-driven initiatives that are driving innovation, enhancing global collaboration, and shaping the industries of tomorrow. And that is going to affect you as well, no matter what industry you are in. So today, China is undergoing a huge transformation, shifting from the world's factory model to be a high-tech leader. This progress is driven by significant investments, strategic policy making, and a commitment to technological advancement. Have a look at my video where I talk about how the Chinese government is pushing the AI industry. You can also find it on my channel. Beijing's plan is to push China to the forefront of global innovation. So let's start and look at the goals, priorities, and what that means for the rest of the world, especially the Western world. Part number 1, let's focus on the key differences between Made in China 2025 and China Standards 2035. You could call it transformation versus standardization. Made in China 2025 focuses on upgrading China's manufacturing capabilities, reducing reliance on foreign technology, and fostering homegrown innovation. This includes localization of supply chains inside of China, but also for Chinese firms going abroad. China Standards 2035 is about setting the global technical standards that will define industries for decades, with the aim of giving China a leading voice in international regulations and framework, just as the US has done in the past, for example. A key point and the main difference is the regional area of application. Made in China 2025 laid the groundwork for technological innovation within China, so that it has a very strong domestic focus, while Standards 2035 leverages these innovations to shape global industry rules. Together, they form an interconnected strategy for long-term dominance in both innovation and standard setting. So let's think about that for a moment. Global industry rules. If successful, this will affect you and me and everyone. Should this work out, then it would give global rule-setting power to China. This kind of standardization gives China an outsized role in setting global norms, influencing how these technologies are developed and deployed worldwide. If that happens, if Chinese standards become more dominant, Western firms may be forced to adapt them, making it harder for US or European companies to compete. Both strategies have different priorities. It is building versus regulating. Made in China 2025 prioritizes technological advancement, targeting high-tech industries such as AI, semiconductors, robotics, aerospace, and green energy. China Standards 2035 seeks to standardize industries like AI ethics, 5G network, quantum computing, high-speed rail, and sustainable energy to align with global best practices and enhance efficiency in global supply chains. As many of the industries that I just mentioned are comparatively new industries, Chinese may have a little bit of a first-mover advantage. By defining standards, China could ensure its own companies gain market dominance, making Western firms play catch-up. And as you can imagine, Western countries have concern about this direction, right? So there are many facets to this aspect. Take AI ethics, for example. China's AI governance may prioritize state control and surveillance over privacy and individual freedoms, conflicting with Western democratic values. Another point is that AI and telecommunication standards could tilt global data flows toward China, giving it a greater access to sensitive information, which, as we have seen with the recent TikTok drama, is a very, very hot topic for Western countries and will surely make an appearance in upcoming elections and heated debates. Part number 2, Made in China 2025 is a blueprint for a tech powerhouse. It was officially launched in 2015 with a clear timeline for achieving its goals by 2025 today. While the Chinese government has de-emphasized the phrase Made in China 2025 in recent years due to international backlash, particularly from Western nations, the initiative continues under less conspicuous branding but remains central to China's industrial policy. But in effect, it's cosmetics that have changed, not the actual commitment. Other countries have vehemently and repeatedly voiced concerns about market distortion and unfair competition, for example via subsidies from the government, intellectual property rights concerns such as forced tech transfer of companies wanting to enter and develop the China market. I also have a separate video on this topic and how Chinese firms have in part taken foreign know-how and innovated upon it and now end up being the market leader in that product category. You can also find it in my channel. And also their concern are national security risks, for example, specifically voiced from the United States. There have been serious investments made in targeted domestic development initiatives, such as $300 billion in initial government funding back in 2018 to enhance research and innovation. Another $1.4 trillion have been invested post-COVID to accelerate China's technological self-sufficiency, aiming for somewhere around 70% domestic content in high-tech sectors by this year. And the results are quite successful, actually. While no, not all targets have been reached and many have been hush-hushed, by and large, one could call China 2025 a success. I would assume that maybe more or less 2/3 or so of the targets have been reached and a lot is still ongoing. So it doesn't just stop because we have reached the year 2025, it's going on. And here are some of the key advancements. First is semiconductor and AI. While China still relies on some foreign semiconductor technology, its AI capabilities are world-class, powering industries from facial recognition to smart cities. DeepSeek's R1 model, the Manus autonomous AI agent, Alibaba QWQ32B or Xiaopeng's AI-driven innovation, which they announced they want to be using for humanoid robots and flying cars by next year, 2026. Also electric vehicles. China now leads global EV production with companies like BYD and NIO competing at the highest level. China accounted for approximately 58% of global EV production in 2023. In 2024, China sold 12.8 million passenger electric vehicles, with battery electric vehicles making up somewhere 60% of these sales and plug-in hybrid electric vehicles somewhere around 40%. Another point is 5G infrastructure. Rapid rollout of 5G networks positioning China at the forefront of next-gen connectivity. By the end of 2024 last year, China had deployed approximately 4.2 million 5G bases, accounting for over 60% of global total. China is advancing towards next-generation technologies like 5G Advanced while preparing for future innovations in 6G. The country is also integrating 5G into industries such as manufacturing, healthcare, and even education through thousands of application projects. So to better understand what has been happening, let's look at the priority sectors. Made in China 2025 prioritized 10 sectors, including advanced information technology, automated machine tools and robotics, aerospace equipment, maritime equipment and high-tech shipping, modern rail transport equipment, new energy vehicles, power equipment, agricultural equipment, new materials, and biopharma and advanced medical products. But not everything is as easy peasy as it sounds. China still has a lot of room for improvement and continues working on a range of topics. For example, regarding global market access, which remains a challenge due to trade tensions, geopolitics, and regulatory scrutiny. These issues have intensified a lot, especially recently. The current geopolitical situation gives us an additional dimension of headache for them. But what we do see is a huge wave of Chinese firms going abroad called Zhuhai. Also, semiconductor or self-reliance is still a work in progress, requiring sustained R&D investment, and this took a bit of a dent during the pandemic years as well, to be honest. Balancing domestic goals with global cooperation to ensure trade and technology partnerships do not burn too many bridges is not an easy ask. Western countries are also trying to counteract and protect their market and their industries, and many Western countries have very valid concerns. For example, cybersecurity concerns. So Western governments fear that Chinese-led standards in AI, 5G and quantum computing could embed vulnerabilities or backdoors that allow for espionage or cyber threats. Or look at concerns about tech reliance. If China dominates the standard setting, Western countries could become reliant on these Chinese technologies, making decoupling much harder. 5G and quantum monopolization, countries adopting a Chinese-led 5G or quantum standards could find themselves dependent on Chinese infrastructure. And also fragmentation of global standards. Western countries may struggle to maintain cohesion to standard setting bodies like ITU, ISI or IEEE, leading to a divided tech world. Part number 3, let's look into the future. China Standards 2035. The target is setting the global rules. So let's start with strategy and implementation. Unlike Made in China 2025, which focuses on technological independence, China Standards 2035 is about cooperation and influence in a global industry regulation. China is actively engaging in organizations like ISO or IEC to align its standards with international best practices, submitting proposals at an annual growth rate of 20%. This is wild, and this reflects its ambition to influence global standard-setting bodies. There are 3 key initiatives. And number 1 is enhancing existing industry standards to modernize regulations. Number 2 is to innovate pilot programs to refine new technological frameworks. Innovation is central to China's strategy, as being the first to develop advanced technologies allows it to lead in setting industry standards. And of course, expanding global partnerships to integrate Chinese advancements into international standards. This is also called the Go Out strategy. This plan emphasizes exporting Chinese standards globally by leveraging its growing technological capabilities and improving product quality across all industries. But before setting global standards through Standards 2035, China has first focused on unifying domestic standards across its many regions. This ensures that China industries operate efficiently before expanding their influence globally. I mean, talk about doing one's homework. That also means that Standards 2035 builds on the Made in China 2025 initiative, which emphasizes domestic self-sufficiency in high-tech production. The plan prioritizes aligning domestic standards before expanding globally. Additionally, China is using their influence over developing countries, for example, in the Belt and Road Initiative, to promote to others the Chinese technology adoption across developing countries. This is a strategy that aligns very, very closely with Standards 2035 objectives. The China Standard 2035 initiative is part of a broader geopolitical strategy to shape the rules of global production and exchange. Through this, China seeks to secure economic gains via licensing fees and patent technologies and establish itself as a leader in the next industrial revolution. Part number 4, what is the long-term vision? It is future and it is growth and development. By 2035, China aims to be the global leader in next-gen technology standards, ensuring its framework is embedded in industries worldwide. Key focus areas are AI governance and ethics, shaping how automation and machine learning are deployed internationally. For example, in September 2024, China released its AI safety governance framework, addressing ethical concerns in AI development, including safety, transparency, and accountability. Quantum computing and blockchain security is another point, and China's role in cybersecurity and financial technologies is making significant advancements here. The ChainMaker blockchain platform has been equipped with post-quantum digital signature algorithms, enhancing security against both classical and quantum computer attacks. Origin Quantum, a leading Chinese quantum computing company, has developed the Wukong quantum computer with 72 quantum bits accessible to users worldwide since January last year, 2024. China's long-term vision extends beyond the Made in China 2025 initiative. For example, one sub-goal is parity with global leaders by 2030 to 35. China aims to match or surpass leading global industries and technological innovation. Another one is looking even further into the future and aiming for tech leadership by 2049, coinciding with the 100-year anniversary of the People's Republic of China. China envisions becoming the world's dominant technological power. Anniversaries and certain numbers are very, very important in China, as celebrated widely. So while yes, 2049 is still a long way to go, I would expect significant efforts to be made to make this very remarkable. And by embedding its standard into international frameworks, so licensing agreements, intellectual property rights enforcements, royalties, for example, Chinese enterprises stand poised to reap significant economic benefits from these efforts over time. So what does it mean for Western firms? Number one, it could mean a further fragmented global landscape. China's growing influence in standard setting has raised concerns among Western nations, leading to potential alternative alliances that could fragment the global technology landscape and also long-term economic impact. Should China succeed in embedding its standards globally, it will secure significant economic benefits while reshaping the competitive dynamics of international markets. But there are also opportunity for Western firms. Foreign firms that align with China's standardization efforts may gain strategic advantages in accessing Chinese markets and participating in emerging industries. However, one thing I would like to highlight at the end. Even though this is still under discussion, please do not make the very common error of assuming that a political strategy will be treated like many political strategies in the Western world, where you have a slow pace of implementation, for example, when it comes to digitalization in Germany, which is taking forever, or a change of a government like in the US, where the new president changes what the old president decided. China is different, and it would be wise to assume that at least 70–80% of the target outlined here will be reached by 2035. And I would encourage you to speak to your experts, advisors, or market analysts to make sure you really understand what that means for you and to develop a strategy. Guys, I hope you found this useful, even if it was a little bit technical. Let me know what you think in the comments. If you liked this video and you want to hear more about China in general or China HR, Asia HR specifically, then like and subscribe. I just started my channel in January and it really helps me if you subscribe to it. Thanks a lot. Bye, guys.